Thomas, it's up for grabs now!
Magic ball from Bergkamp to Patrick Vieira!
Oh, would you believe it? Oh, right, what a way to get it!
Fabulous solo goal by Thierry Henry.
Good evening and welcome to another roller coaster edition of the Arsenal Lounge. I say roller coaster because it was only last week we were talking about how great things were going, apart from a loss, but it was a great performance. But before we go into all of that, and hi to all of you guys in the chat, we've got our resident guests. I always look forward to these Mondays, guys. So firstly, a big hello to Mo. How you doing, bro?
Yep, all good. Just reading about the latest lockdown shenanigans of our lovely trusted government whilst we were all obeying it. But never mind. How are you guys?
We can talk about that at the end if you want. I'm good. And Tom, again, we'll get everything on the Arsenal Lounge, a bit of politics in here as well. That's what you get when you get Mo in there. Do you know what I mean? Up a notch a little bit. And Tom, we're going to bring it down a notch a little bit.
It's all good, man. How are you?
I'm good, man. I was only joking. You know, I love talking to you on a Monday night, mate.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's been where's Shaheen at? Like, people are asking, where is the big man been? What's he doing?
So there's you. I'm professing how I feel about you, and all you want to do is talk about Shaheen. You were saying
you're the double act. You got 50% of the double act. That's all I'm saying.
Do you know what? Right. Arsenal have lost 2 on the bounce, and if Shaheen's back, you know, for the next one after we've lost 2 on the bounce, and maybe people are right. Maybe when Arsenal win, he's gone.
He's not interested. He's not interested when we're winning. He leaves me with all the lovey-dovey stuff, everything going well. He loves to come in doom and gloom. That's maybe what it is. So watch this space. That is what Shaheen's doing. Maybe he's casting a spell from where he is under Tom's floorboards. But anyway, we'll go into, we'll get the elephant out in the room. It's huge. So we were talking last week, as I say, roller coaster ride. We were talking how great everything was going for us. We felt there was progress. You could see, but we were concerned, obviously, with AFCON looming, and we were rightly concerned. It seems that we were going to be left, lacking in depth. And looking at our lineup yesterday, we had Leno, Cedric, White holding, Tavares, Lokonga, Patino making his debut, Saka, Odegaard, Martinelli, and Nketiah. Now, I would say, even lacking in depth, that is a team more than good enough to beat Nottingham Forest. I'm sure you'll agree with me, guys, on this. I looked at that team and I thought, well, the way we're playing at the moment, I'm expecting us to do well. And we watched that performance, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. But I was shocked. I was not expecting this. It was a it was a real curveball. We maybe again at fault for getting sucked into things. Maybe it is a highlight of how we lack in depth when certain players are not in the team. But it was just lacking in energy and desire and fight. And then in the final third, the likes of Nketiah missing easy chances. But the more concerning thing was the lack of ability to actually control midfield. We struggled with Nottingham Forest's midfield. They seemed to run things, and I was just devastated by the performance itself. To be honest, I was shocked. But Mo, I'd like to hear your thoughts first.
You're right about the midfield, and also I felt like on the wing they won the battle, and that significantly contributed to their victory.
Good point.
I hate saying it, but Spence stood out as the best player on the park on Forest's right back position.
Yeah,
and what a achievement to his name. He, in effect, pocketed Martinelli.
He did. He pocketed him.
One hell of a statement. I just thought, I'm not part of Nottingham Forest Twitter, but what the memes would be going around Nottingham Forest Twitter. Spence empties his pockets after the game, and So I hate doing this. I hate admitting this because I'm an Arsenal fan, but you have to give it to them, actually. You have to just put your hands up. And I regret, actually, in my post-match reaction that I did, I spoke about Arsenal because I look at it from an Arsenal lens, but I forgot to give Nottingham Forest the credit that they deserve, because as early as I think the 13th minute is the first time it struck me in the game where I was watching it and I thought, I'm actually really worried about today. as early as that, I realised this is a proper cup tie. And we'll go into the reasons as to why it happened, but they absolutely deserve to win. This was no smash and grab. Yes, of course we had more possession, but this was no smash and grab. They deserved it, and I'm gutted.
Yeah, no, I totally 100% agree with you. They thoroughly deserved it. Spence is definitely worth a mention. There was a few others worth a mention in Forest's team. I think they were just the better team, in my opinion. And Tom, what went wrong, mate? I mean, come on, there was enough on that pitch. Was it the fact that we may be playing Patino, giving him his debut in a central position on an already inexperienced Lokonga? Could that have played a part in this? Was it too much too soon?
I think the midfield is where we lost this. We talk about Spence having a great game, but I think that the midfield was crucial. Like we went from Man City, 28-year-old Thomas Partey, 30-year-old, 30-year-old Granit Xhaka, two experienced players. We've got our criticisms about both and have done rightfully this season, but to go from those two to Lokonga, who's I think had his first start since before the Man United game. That's the last time he started a match against Newcastle, I think it was. And then Patino coming in 18-year-old for his first start. The midfield's been crucial for Arsenal this season. In fact, I mean, I was just while Mo was talking, I was trying to see how influential Patino was during the game. And he doesn't feature as a passer in any of our top 10 passing. Look at kind of the previous games. The left-sided central midfielder is always in the top 10 passing combinations for us. It's such a crucial position for our left flank. So I think we're talking about like Spence pocketing Martinelli, but actually I don't think Martinelli had the midfielder to give him the right kind of service in that position. And that's fine. Patino's a kid. Like, he's 18 years of age. I'm not going to absolutely slate the kid for having just an unimpressive performance. And he's probably going to have to play against Liverpool because the expectation is that Xhaka may not be back for that game, that we probably don't have another midfielder. He could go with, Lokonga as a 6 and Odegaard and Smith Rowe. Smith Rowe's back. And if they're available, I probably would, just to keep Patino out of Anfield, which is going to be a very, very difficult night for him if he does start. But I think that the midfield is key. I also think there's an element of people very much underestimated Forest before the game. They're a side that are obviously chasing the playoffs in the Championship this season. And, they were well up for it. They were brilliant. Let's not take anything away from their performance. They were gunning for us in that game. And I mean, I was up there in 16 when we last lost there. And again, they were up for it at the City grounds. And it was just, I think the game, as we're going to talk about, really did display the drop-off in quality from our starting team to the depth in our team.
Yeah, that is what I wanted to discuss more than anything, because on paper, guys, this team, as I said, is more than good enough to beat, it seems more than good enough to beat Nottingham Forest. However, there was some incidences yesterday that just kind of brought me back to what we were watching a few months back, like Cedric getting caught half asleep, ball over the top, the guy was in. Cedric was nowhere near him. Now, I know people will turn around and tell me he hadn't been playing and he might be being rusty, but your first job should be to do the basics, which is defend. If you're not doing that, you can't tell me you're a professional just because you've had a couple of games off or, you've been a bit rusty. So there was that. There was Holding, didn't look strong in there. Lokonga and Patino weren't doing it. And then up top, we didn't have someone like Lacazette as a focal point to even feed up top. It was just a mess. And, is this what happens when we lose these guys? And surely, I mean, when you look at the fact that we've let Maitland-Niles go, how could we be letting Maitland-Niles go right now when we're so thin in central midfield as it stands? These are the sort of things I need to be asking. But if these, should we be looking to address a backup a fullback as well now? Because, Cedric doesn't look like he's at the races.
What?
Tell me.
With the Maitland-Niles thing, in hindsight, would I have rather Maitland-Niles played in this game? Absolutely, yes. But then it's just that thing, if I pose a question to you guys, right? Let's say, for example, you've got this offer from Roma, a loan offer, and you have to get one out to get one in, for example, in terms of midfielder. Would you say, all right, we can probably get past Nottingham Forest, so let's send Maitland-Niles out on loan, and let's not forget as well, Maitland-Niles, he was straight in the team for Roma against Juventus. Big game. So I think it was against Juventus they played. Big game, and that's his debut straight away. So clearly Mourinho wanted him instantly. That was important to them. Now, would you sacrifice that move and jeopardize that transfer and the ability to bring someone else in, knowing that if you play Maitland-Niles and delay it slightly and he gets injured, that transfer going out, that loan transfer going out is gone, and then the transfer coming in is gone because you're paying the wages and maybe the affordability isn't there? What would you have done in that situation?
Ooh, Tom.
Look, the problem with the Maitland-Niles discussion is like it's the 10th of January, and like Maitland-Niles only left a couple of days ago. Like, and you look at Everton, they signed Mikalenko on the 1st of Jan. Like that, you don't have to wait for the window to open to start discussing transfers with teams. Like, and we knew the AFCON was coming. It's not like a COVID situation, although obviously Xhaka did test positive. It's not like we've had a surprise injury in midfield. We've known that we're going to lose Partey and Elneny for months. So it's just frustrating that something wasn't done. But the Maitland-Niles situation, I do feel like we could have been a bit cutthroat with that and said, look, Roma, you can have him, but we need him this weekend. He needs to play this game this weekend, and then he can go tomorrow, like he gone today. And that would have been fine. I don't, obviously there's the threat of injury and all that if you want to go that far, but I find that a bit odd that we did let him go without a ready-made replacement, knowing that COVID is a thing and the AFCON is a thing. Do you know what I mean, Mo? It just doesn't make much sense to me.
And do you know what? I love it because this is why I love you, Tom, because if I asked you a question with like option A and option B, both of them are the wrong answer. And you answered correctly. Option C, get it done before. Because this wasn't a flipping surprise. And I'm asking you a question about option A and option B that we shouldn't be putting ourselves in the position of, Patino should be coming off the bench, not in a flipping cup tie. We know because we've watched FA Cup football all of our lives what it's all about. We know what they mean when they say the magic of the cup. We know how teams relish and are desperate for that big cup tie against a team far, far superior than them in the pyramid and technically. And I think to people that don't understand FA Cup football, they might find that a bit weird. They might think, hold on a second, why do these lower league oppositions celebrate getting Premier League opposition? It doesn't actually make sense if you think about wanting to progress through the tournament. But when you understand FA Cup football and what it's all about and the opportunity that presents itself to these players to make a reputation, to create magical memories for them, for their fans and their clubs and everything, when you start understanding that, you realize the challenge, and that challenge will come in the form of not technical total football, it will come in the form of physicality, a mile a minute football. And to stick Charlie Patino away from home, I think in hindsight, and I didn't criticize it at the start because I always want to see him play. I'm so excited by him. So I didn't criticize it at the time. So I'm not going to pretend that I was, always, I am talking with the benefit of hindsight is basically what I'm saying. But I think in hindsight, he should have been coming on into less of a boiler room environment, not to win the game against a physical championship team, away from home. So we shouldn't have been in that position.
I think Arteta made a mistake there. That's the one thing I will say. I won't blame him for the performance as such of the team, because at the end of the day, there's plenty on the field for them to have beaten Forest if they had the application and the desire, the two things that didn't seem to have at all yesterday. But I think you're right there, Mo. This is what I was getting at by asking the question even. I felt that the Championship, one thing it is known for is its physicality. And what we've done is we've thrown him into the lion's den. Could that have affected his confidence? I mean,
what would you have done instead, Lev? Like, how would you have set things up? Like, with the benefit of hindsight, with the players that were available, what could you?
I mean, I don't. It's difficult to know 100% what was going on. But where's Chambers?
Exactly? Yeah,
that's the Chambers is the one for me. And I think there's also an opportunity that we could have gone to say a back three in the game. People talk about the back three being kind of this submission of like the opposition the better. It's not, and that's why Chelsea have done it and Conte's done it so successfully for years. We could have gone to a back three. We could have used Cedric, who's much better as a wing back because defensively he's so flawed. Like, you might as well use him as a wing back if you want to use him. But we've used Tomiyasu in this right back role for ages, really successfully. And if I asked you who out of Cedric or Chambers strikes you as a more similar style fullback to Tomiyasu, the answer's not Cedric. So why Chambers wasn't used, I don't know.
And even Chambers being deployed in midfield potentially.
Sure.
or
as a
coming,
DM.
Last
coming,
resort, yeah.
coming in as a centre-back and Ben White potentially pushing a bit further into midfield. I think there could have been a lot of options. I like the fact, though, that Patino was rewarded with the start, but at home to Sunderland, is one thing. And I know he didn't start that game, but at home to Sunderland is one thing where he comes on. Away at Forest in the third round of the Cup is another. And I just don't think it was the best, really.
I mean, there's some people on here saying, Maximus, where you been since we've been performing well? You haven't seen you for a little while, but just bang on cue. Maximus is here. I know he's saying Chambers is garbage. Also, listen, I'm not saying Chambers is my favorite player or he's great, but I think he would have been better suited to deal with what was going to be coming our way against Nottingham Forest, Championship level, and I think he would have coped with that. And I think I would have looked at him, like Mo said, for DM even, or put him in the midfield, because he would have done a better job than Patino. I think we set Patino up to fail a little bit there, but the rest of the team, I mean, again, where's Pepe? Where's all these other guys?
Oh, Pepe's at the AFCON, isn't he?
He's at AFCON, yeah, that's right. That's
I mean, I think there's an element of recency bias, you see. I mean, Sebastian in the chat box says Marie should have started over Holding, but I mean, Marie has been absolutely battered by the fan base at the start of the season for that performance against Chelsea, and he's been nowhere to be seen since. I can't remember I think the last time he played was Sunderland or AFC Wimbledon. I think the last time he played was. So it's all about recency bias and saying we could have done this, we could have done that. Let's talk about the context level of the game, because Arteta has come in for some criticism after the match. I think rightly in the sense of the Ainsley Maitland-Niles situation, and I think rightly for some of his in-game management, which we've always looked upon as dodgy. I mean, the substitutions I was a little bit mystified by at times. We'll talk about Tavares maybe in a bit.
Yeah, what happened there?
Well, I didn't mind that decision. That one's the sub that actually of all of them made the most sense. I thought
he was awful.
Could have come on earlier. Kolasinac didn't need to come on. You've got Mika Biereth on the bench. You've got Amari Hutchinson that are very rated very highly. And yes, they're kids, but we're losing. Throw them on. We need to get a goal. Don't throw on Kolasinac at the 88th minute. Tavares gave the ball away 8 times in 30 minutes. That's not acceptable. And I found it very strange, and I did my reaction show afterwards, that people said Arteta's killed Tavares' confidence. He's never going to trust him again. But from my perspective, if a player in that moment's being dragged off and his reaction is he no longer respects the manager and he's never going to be the same again, I'm not sure I want a player of that ilk at the club. I want a player that can take that on the chin, accept that he was bad, and come back in the next game a lot stronger.
Tom, hold on. If you look back at that footage as a player coming off the field, and someone said, "Hey, why'd you take me off, Gaffer?" and you showed him that clip of those eight times that he gave the ball away, what can you say as a player? Mo?
No, exactly.
Yeah, but I mean, I think what you can say as a player is, fine, I deserve to come off, but the way in which you did it was humiliating for me. And I think that's a fair response for a player to say, you know what, I just would have appreciated it if you protected me a little bit. And I think that's the one thing that players do ask for from their managers.
But Mo, how do you do that though? How do you do that? Potentially, but if it's that bad, it could cost you a goal, right?
Not even that, because that's such an easy comeback, isn't it? That it will cost me a goal. So what I would do if I was the manager, I'd say, this is what I said in my post-match reaction. I would have told Martinelli, I would have told another player close to me on that side, go down injured. I want to have a word with Tavares. I want you to go down injured, feign an injury for a minute. And then as he's receiving treatment, I pull Tavares over and I'd be telling him, you've given the ball away 8 times in 30 minutes. The next 5 minutes, play it simple. I don't want to see any nonsense from you. I want you to just play the game really simple, come back down to basics, and I'm going to go 5 minutes, 5-minute chunks with you. If you carry on playing the way you're playing, I'm going to have to drag you off. So that's one way of doing it. Or another way of doing it is to kind of to take the sting out the moment when he sees his number goes up. Say to him, look, you're having a very tough day today. I'm going to take you out the firing line, okay? And so this is when you're pre-warning him before it happens. So Martinelli's gone down injured, and you say to the player, I'm going to protect you. You're not having a good game. I'm going to take you out the firing line. When you come off, we're just going to make it look like an injury, like you picked up a knock, okay? And you'll learn from this. Now, just that one sentence, 5 minutes before you take him off, or even 1 minute before you take him off, I think maintains that relationship with the player. And if you don't care about the relationship with the player, then you are risking killing someone's confidence. And I get what you're saying, Tom. They need to be more robust than that. And there is an argument there. But I just think that I've always asked about Arteta's man management. This is not me slating Arteta and saying I don't believe in him or I don't think he's good enough, blah, blah, blah. And I get that he's trying to change a culture and that sort of thing. But you look at who it is. When it's Aubameyang, experienced professional, can live up to that pressure and that sort of treatment. And it's not his first time as well, right? With Tavares, this is his first time in English football, his first season in English football. This is his first 35 minutes of FA Cup football. We were just talking about understanding FA Cup football, third round football against lower league opposition. Is there not an argument there to say maybe cut him some slack, maybe protect him, rather than humiliating him on a televised game, leaving him out to dry?
Mo, I'll say this, right. I was looking at some of the people in the chat here, and everyone's saying, "Oh, he's not good enough based on this one game." Listen, again, it's so ridiculous, right? Because look, I played football for a long time. You have these games every now and then. You don't know why, but you're just awful. You're just awful. It happens. You're awful. It's like getting up to go to work and you just have a bad day in the office. You're just not with it. Everything you do just goes wrong. He was having one of those days. You could see it. The touch was off. His passing was off. Even the back pass to the goalie, he nearly overhit. It was just having one of those days. So I'm old school. I would expect the manager to. We don't know what went on. That's the only thing. We don't know whether he's passed a few messages over to him saying, "Listen, you need to buck your ideas." I can't imagine he just pulled him off. And it takes a lot of sort of preparation to do what. I don't know, Mo. I mean, what are they going to do? Practice it on the training ground. So if you're having a nightmare, then you go down.
No. I really disagree. I don't think it does. I really don't think it does. You can go and get a sub to go and warm up. You can go and get an assistant.
No, I understand. Yeah, I understand.
There are ways of doing it. These are the dark arts in a way. Like if there's that famous example, isn't there, where Mourinho was suspended, he flipping snuck in the laundry cart. Yeah. Now, if you can go and do that, you can certainly go and do this. And at any level of football, you've seen these sorts of things happen where people come on with notes on the pitch and that sort of thing. Where there's a will, there's a way. And I just don't think that Arteta has got that strong desire to sometimes protect his players. And when you look at the list of players that Arteta has fallen out in, 2.5 years of managing Arsenal Football Club? Ozil, Saliba, Guendouzi, Aubameyang, maybe Tavares. I don't know if I've covered them all or if there's even more. I think to myself, how many players has Pep Guardiola fallen out with? How many players has Jurgen Klopp fallen out with in their times at their clubs, their current clubs? How many players did Arsene Wenger fall out with over 2 decades at Arsenal Football Club? Yes, that happened with Aboué, but it's still, from memory, when Aboué walked past, he was very visibly affected, but it felt like the vibe that day felt like Arsene Wenger was doing him a favor and taking him out of that.
I was at that game. That was terrible.
Yeah. Both Klopp and Mourinho have both subbed players before half time, though.
I said Klopp and Pep. Mourinho is a car crash of a man manager.
Maybe he was making a point, Mo. Maybe he was. We don't know what's happening in training. Maybe he felt like he had to give him that treatment to wake him up a little bit, that his standards have got to be higher than what they were.
But look, see, Perry Nagpal in the chat has said, Mo, what about Jose Conte? They fall out with players but are both great managers. Now, what I'm concerned about is the longevity of Mikel Arteta at Arsenal Football Club, because ultimately if you carry on treating players like this, when you do it to enough members of your squad, there will be a mutiny against you. At Chelsea, when Andre Villas-Boas was the manager there, he tried to come down as a young manager, and this makes a difference. You're not a Capello or an Ancelotti. You're a young manager. And when you try and call the shots to this extent and be that ruthless, you know what a group of players did? They used to turn up to the training ground and enter 1 minute before they would have been officially late. So they'd sit in their cars, they'd chill in the car park, and then they'd walk in just before, to almost show a defiance to him that, we'll listen to you, but we're not with you. And these mutinies are formed when you don't have a good relationship with your players. And I'm just worried about Arteta's longevity. So I would have dealt with it differently. But I don't know if you guys agree or disagree. But I'm not doubting that he needed to come off.
Let us know in the chat. Yeah, was he right or was he wrong to pull off Tavares the way he did? I'd like to hear your thoughts. Tom, was he right or wrong? We actually said
I personally am fine with the decision. I think Mo raises a good point about how he could have approached it, talking about kind of the going down injured type of thing. That is a good suggestion. I'm fine with it because I know that, overall, this team has been very galvanized behind the manager this season. Even in the decision to take away Aubameyang's captaincy, the feeling that I've heard is that the most of the players actually supported Arteta's decision in stripping of the captaincy. I think it's a very united group overall. I think Tavares will get over this fairly quickly. I am staggered by some of the responses I see, like saying Tavares is not good enough and all this. People forgetting very quickly the games he had against Leicester, the game he had against Aston Villa, the game he had against Watford, the reason why he was keeping Tierney out of the team for those games. He had a tough time at Liverpool, and that's when kind of that run of games came to an end for him. But it's so funny how quickly people forget kind of performances from, say, just a couple of months ago because of one bad 30 minutes. It's crazy. And people saying he's not good enough to get us top four. He's not got to be good enough for us to get top four because he's our backup. He needs to be good enough to be the backup. And he's shown in those performances this season that he is good enough to be cover for Kieran Tierney. So to say that he's not good enough to be a second choice behind Tierney, I think is ludicrous at this stage based off those 30 minutes.
I mean, look, the whole team played poorly. I mean, let's not forget that, right? I mean, the rest that stayed on didn't do much better. I don't think we're going to judge just Tavares on this, and I certainly won't. I think he's a talented young lad with potential. I just think he had a bad day in the office, but you could go right away through the team. And I mean, even Odegaard, he gets the ball, he was giving it away left, right, and centre, and it was just a poor. But then saying that, guys, we haven't even touched on the fact that there were some gilt-edged opportunities there that you'd expect a top Premier League team striker to take, wouldn't you? In Eddie's chances. I mean, that header, for example.
He's missed some big chances in those bigger moments. Like you think back to the Everton game where he hit the post with that header. Like he's happy to score. I say happy to score. He's able to score a hat-trick against a team like Sunderland because I think, he's a lower-end Premier League, upper-end Championship player. And it's another criticism I've got of Arteta is why he is hell-bent on trying to keep Nketiah at the club. I don't get
that.
Yeah, the only reason I can put to that is because he's worried about losing him for free as one option, and he's worried that we might be left with too few striker options for the rest of the season. That's the only real way. Because
he's worried we're not going to land someone in the window.
Well, I'm sure we'll talk about the striker situation in a bit. But yeah, Nketiah, look, it's another game where it proved that we don't need to keep hold of Nketiah. He's not of a level going to become of a level that we're going to regret getting rid of him. I'm more than happy to go on record saying that. So it's not a concern.
I've been a strong advocate of Nketiah. I do try and watch youth games, and over the years, Nketiah has stood out to me as someone that I expected to make it. Now, I'm really gutted, actually. I'm quite disappointed at his transition into the first team because he was so clinical, so clinical in the youth team, and he just hasn't been able to translate that. And for someone that has been honestly, with every fibre of me, desperate for him to succeed every time he plays, I haven't given up on him like many people have. I have to say, I have come to the realization that Tom has just mentioned there, that if we were to lose him now, I would expect not to regret it. That's where I'm at now. And I think that tells everything, given the place of support and desperation for him to succeed that I was in before.
Yeah, I mean, I just can't look. Every time I've seen him, the one thing everyone used to say about him, and I didn't watch many of his games in the under 23s, etc. But the one thing you'd hear is he's deadly. He's clinical. I mean, you didn't hear he was a great build-up player or he could play that false number 9. We didn't. None of us expected that from him. But the one thing we expected was clinical, and he's had plenty of opportunities. And when it comes to it, it must be mental, guys, because if he's scoring goals for fun in the under 23s. The process is the same in front of goal. It just has to be something mental. Maybe he just could not dealing with the pressure at Arsenal.
Can I just add one more thing, Lev, as well?
Yeah.
I have heard countless times this season, I'm frankly a little bit tired of it, about how young our squad is. And now, and I've mentioned, talking to you guys before, that just having a young squad is not something to be proud of. The thing to be proud of is having the perfect blend of experience in a squad. The perfect, the thing to be proud of is getting things right, not going like one extreme or another. But you can see that we're going on a youth project here. And you can see that actually on balance is working quite well in the league so far. We're definitely above where we expected to be. But we only ever talk about the youth when we want to brag about it after a win. Do you know what I mean? We go and perform really, really well, and then we say, oh, Arsenal's average age is 24. The future's really, really bright. And then we all know in the back of our heads, and we do understand this, that every now and then there are going to be some inconsistent, poor performances as a result of the youth. And that's why it's not something to be proud of, because what you want to do is remove the inconsistency. And that's why you want the blend of experience and youth. So why is it that no Arsenal fan ever says after a game like this against Nottingham Forest, okay, we're all behind this youth project. We all kind of are proud of it. We all back it and seem to love it. And this is part and parcel of that youth project. It's a shame that it's come in a knockout game, like, a cup competition, and we've been dumped out of a competition because of it. But the average age was very, very young. It was 23 years and something months yesterday. That was the average age. So, perhaps we all should have seen it coming a little bit, given that we know what the FA Cup's all about. And I think we need to start taking the good with the bad of this youth project and not potentially expecting too much. Maybe expect a little bit more inconsistency, because coming up to the end of the season, every game is sort of like a knockout game, isn't it? There's so much riding on every game. That pressure cooker of the business end of a season starts very, very soon, and perhaps we might see more of this inconsistency.
I mean, I think the problem we have, guys, is we talk about the youth till the cows come home, and we have excuses for the youth. Obviously, they're going to have inconsistencies along the way before they level out in their careers. It happens to all young footballers at the beginning, but a lot of the problems are still with some of the older guys that we've had for a little while.
Yeah. Who were some of the worst performers yesterday? Cedric,
Holding. Yeah, I mean, come on,
also Patino and Ketia.
Of course.
Overall, it was.
Look, yesterday isn't a game of scapegoats. Yesterday is a game of looking at that overall performance and saying that as a team, we were not good enough. And
terrible.
And I think there is context to it. I think obviously Arsenal played a team that played against Man City, and I think we comfortably win that. But what it goes to show is that there is still a long way to go to overhaul the overall squad, not just the starting 11, to be competitive across an entire season, even when going up against these lower opposition sides like Nottingham Forest.
Listen, I'm not going to overly sort of play this whole FA Cup loss, because on the other hand, we do have to put things in context. This is nothing new. I know in this world of social media and all this stuff, everything's magnified, but we've lost FA Cup ties before away to the likes of,
Nottingham Forest,
Wrexham. I think it was Wrexham away.
Blackburn, I think we lost at home against.
This is nothing new. The FA Cup has always had these sort of things going on, and it does happen. So I don't want to over egg it and think that this is going to ruin our entire season, because prior to that, it was looking positive. My concern now is with this, this should serve as a warning to us that we may lack in depth to carry us on for the next month or two. So the real question is, what are we going to do about it now? Because if we move quickly, it's such a weird situation, just like with the players, with us fans in this chat and everywhere else. 1 minute they say a player's great. Oh, he's not good enough the next. We could do that with Arteta right now. 1 minute we're singing his praises. He looks like he's getting there. Then we lose to Forest. Now we're all worried again. Now the question is, what are we going to do in this? We're in another situation where if we move quick and we get 2 good players in, we could be chasing top 4 and maybe getting it earlier than expected. But if we don't, then there's a severe lack of depth, and we could be derailed by the end of the next month or two. So, Tom, what do you think we're going to do? We'll start with you, mate.
Look, the obvious answer is to go into the transfer window. I mean, and look at the market, and that's how you approach it. The likelihood is Arsenal are not going to be able to sign a midfielder minimum before Liverpool, and it's unlikely they'll get a midfielder in before Spurs. I just can't see it happening, and the evidence suggests that won't be the case, because Arsenal's midfield targets are from clubs that they're imperative to, and they're the players that you have to spend significant money to get. And it looks like if Arsenal are going to spend money in this window, it's going to be on a striker, and the striker at the moment, obviously everyone's talking about, is Dusan Vlahović. Does he solve the problems that we saw yesterday? No. Ironically, you can spend 150 million quid on a striker and he doesn't necessarily solve the issues that we had yesterday because the team performance was bad. But I do think that the issues from yesterday stemmed from the lack of quality in the centre of the park, which did not allow us to dominate and distribute the ball like we usually would during fixtures. So against Liverpool, I think we've got a choice, Lev. And we talk about solutions. What do we do? Patino, I don't think you can start him in that game against Liverpool, even if he is the only other central midfielder by Lokonga that is available. I think that Arteta needs to look at that game and think, how do I change the structure of the team to accommodate more senior players into this side, whether it's going to a back three, whether it's going to a 4-3-3 with Lokonga as a single pivot and say Smith Rowe and Odegaard ahead of him. He needs to work out some way of adding greater quality into the side.
What would you do?
With the same amount of players.
What would you do?
Who was actually? Let's just have a look of who was actually fully on the bench yesterday, imagining that they're the same amount of players that are available for us. So we had Chambers. I would bring Chambers in for Cedric because he's simply not good enough. I would play Ramsdale because I think Ramsdale, even though I didn't think Leno was that bad, and that's not a discredit to him, his distribution just helps us from the back. He's more confident playing out from the back, and I think you put him back in. Gabriel's going to be available again. You put him in over Rob Holding in that position as well. You start Tierney, you play Chambers. If Tomiyasu's fit, obviously you're playing, but I don't think he's going to be. So Chambers comes in, Ramsdale comes in, Gabriel comes in. Already that's a huge step up in that end of the field. Then in midfield, I would go to the single pivot of Lokonga. If Smith Rowe is fit, then bring him in. If he's not, then we've got a bit of a problem because the players that are available to us. Possibly, you could play Odegaard in a slightly deeper role and go to kind of a 4-4-2 possibly and kind of play Lacazette and Nketiah and then play Martinelli on Saka in the wide positions. That's the only other kind of thing and theory that we've got because we are so lacking without the players that we don't have right now that's a real likelihood. So,
no one opting for maybe pushing Chambers into DM role or White into the DM role?
The team, so no. I'll just get him out of the team as soon as possible for me.
Mo, what would you do?
I think we could go for Guendouzi and Torreira in the middle on this occasion. It's funny, isn't it? That doesn't sound so bad right now. If someone said to me, against all you can play those two, I'd be like, yeah, okay. I'll take that. Guendouzi's playing well for Marseille.
It's been very good.
Here's where we are. Maitland-Niles would certainly have been one that would have been talking about the game's in 3 days. And then in 6 days, we've got Tottenham away in the league. Tottenham are, 2 points behind us with 2 games in hand. We need to win that game. Whoever wins that game is the favourite to finish above one another. And therefore, you could say, probably the favourite to finish 4th.
Yeah.
There is a hell of a lot riding on that game. If Tottenham win that game, they're 1 point ahead of us with 2 games in hand.
That's a 6 point of that game, isn't it? Let's be honest.
The only advantage is that Spurs still have to go to Liverpool, they have to go to Chelsea, and they have to go to City. We've been to City and we've been to Anfield. That's the only kind of silver lining on that, is that I think they've got a tougher second half of the season in comparison to us. But you're right, Mo. It is an absolute, to be honest, it's an absolute cannot lose of a game. A draw would not be a disaster, but to be honest, for either team. Yeah. But with Son not there, and if, say, by that point, we'll have a week, obviously, since we found out about Xhaka and Tomiyasu and Smith Rowe's injuries, you'd think that Tomiyasu would be back for that game. If it's only a slight injury, I'd probably rest Tomiyasu for the Liverpool game, to be honest, to make sure he's fit for that game against Spurs. And I'd probably, if Granit Xhaka, isn't fully fit for the Liverpool game after recovering, I'd probably save him as well for the Spurs game. Because let's be real, getting top 4, and trust me, I love silverware, but getting top 4 is so much more important for us than winning the League Cup this season. So much more important, because it would enable us to win bigger and better trophies further down the line if we get it.
No, exactly. And, the thing is, that Tottenham game, I'm already looking at that. And I know you're meant to look at the next game as players and that sort of thing and as a manager, but it's very hard to... you don't need to sell that Tottenham game. It's a huge, huge game. Yeah. And the Liverpool game is like almost a bit of a distraction. In a way, maybe I'm glad that it's not the second leg. It's just the first leg of that game. So you don't have to, we're not having to go hell for leather we can almost kind of try and say, all right, this is just half time and you've got the second half to put anything right. But I'm very worried about what sort of midfield we're going to play in that Tottenham game. With the Liverpool game, I'm not actually even sure what sort of team they will put out. They may well choose to not play all of their stars. So it could end up being a bit more of a balance. But you know one thing for sure, Tottenham are going to put the very best team out that they possibly can in that game against Arsenal. So I'm nervous. I really am quite nervous.
Just a quick super chat, guys. Thank you, Cliff, for your support. $4.99. Wasn't happy with lineup, but it was good enough to beat a fledgling Forest side. Agrees with us. Youth is no excuse. Bet AirPods wouldn't have bought on Kolasinac. He says, "Yeah."
That, by the way, is one of the stupidest opinions. That you know, when people talk about like how Albert Stuyvenberg did more than Arteta, honestly, it's one of the most personal attacks on Arteta you've ever seen. People just lose all absence of sensibleness with that. It's crazy.
I know we touched upon that sub though, but it really did baffle me. No. When I saw Kolasinac coming on,
that was silly.
You mentioned Beereth earlier, Tom, and again, if people don't watch the youth, fine, but he really looks like a proper striker, proper striker's mold.
I watched footage of him just the other day. Funny you say that, Mo. He was,
and he really. I mean, look. I was wrong about Nketiah, and they will be wrong about Beereth, but he really just seems like an old school striker. And, he wouldn't have come on to change the game in terms of the footballing element of the game, but he would have come on to just get one chance, one goal, that sort of player.
But he's really good in combination as well. Like him and Balogun have played really well together for the youth. And I think he would have helped set players up as well. I'm trying to think in what scenario, bar us being 3-0 up, was the point of having Salah, Hutchinson, and Beereth on the bench. And if you think that Hutchinson and Beereth have had, scored goals this season between the two of them, you're desperately in need of a goal to take to extra time. Just you've got 5 subs to make. Yeah. Throw them on, and especially when you're leaving Nketiah on the pitch as well.
When else are you going to use them? Yeah. When else?
Yeah, it would have made a lot more sense for that to be Beereth and not Kolasinac. I'm just surprised by it. So then here's my question to you guys. When Mikel Arteta was really struggling as a manager, it seemed like he had a lot of goodwill as a result of winning the FA Cup when he, did the second half of that competition and won us the FA Cup. Now, do you think that given the way we exited against Southampton last year and against Forest this year, he's taking the FA Cup seriously enough? Or is this not on him? Is this on the players?
So are you suggesting, do you think, are you suggesting he may be focusing more on the league then, right now?
I think he played the strongest team that he could have, bar Lacazette, to be honest.
No. Tom, I'm not talking about the team. Last year against Southampton, I criticised his selection.
Yeah.
And I felt like he voluntarily exited. I'm not saying that this year. But clearly they didn't start off correctly. When he dragged off Tavares, that example that he made, what improvement did it yield? None. At halftime, when he got into the players, what did that achieve? Nothing. When he took Patino off for Lacazette, what did that achieve? Nothing. Nothing that Arteta did seemed to transmit to the players yesterday. So I'm asking the question, is that down to the players, or is there something that we can read into here that just makes me think, based on last year as well, and the complete lack of reaction that Arteta got from this players, that it's not communicated as a priority. It's not given importance like the league games are.
I mean, he made the decision to drop and strip Aubameyang, and then we went on a run of scoring 20 goals. So I think I do look at yesterday's game on the players. I think it's on the players. I don't look at it on Arteta, to be honest. Okay. I think some of the in-game management decisions you're absolutely spot on about, but I just feel like it was one of those games where 90% of the squad were just, maybe even 100% were just off it. But I don't point the finger. I've pointed the finger at Arteta a lot throughout the season for a lot of games, but I don't in yesterday's game.
Do you know what? I didn't until I started to look in recently into the decision to play Patino in the middle and all that. I think you can argue a case that maybe that he made the wrong decision going for a young, very talented but young and very lightweight kid in the central midfield against the championship side. That's where I think he's made a mistake. Perry Nagpal, thank you for your support. Thank you, bro. We can sign Wijnaldum on loan from PSG. Yeah, we're going to go on to transfers now. It's a good segue for me. Thank you, Perry. PSG or Arthur Melo on loan from Juve. Even Ramsey on loan from Juve. Oh, I think now you've got a bit too far for me. There are some good midfielders available. Yeah, you've got a point there. Thank you for your support. So, guys, I mean, with this in mind, we're talking about all these games coming up. We know we've got big game with Spurs coming up, which is we've already discussed. It's huge, but surely if we're gonna get into that top four, surely we're gonna address some aspects now. Now we all know that we're looking at Vlahović. That seems to be the priority for Arsenal, by the sounds of it. And with the amount of spend that needs to go into getting him, there was also talk that we were looking at Bruno Guimaraes in midfield. I know, Tom, you've mentioned it a number of times on your show. He's not coming at the moment. I've got this distinct feeling at the moment that we might struggle to get both what we need right now, and it might be the better option to go all in with a Vlahović, because it sounds like Fiorentina are willing to sell, and Wijnaldum on loan would be a great, a great asset for now. No, I mean, what's your thoughts, guys? So I'll start with you, Mo.
Wijnaldum, oh God, I'd love to get him in. I mean, because he's a very, very good player. Let's face it, technically he's very good. He's an experienced player. He's played at the highest level. He's won things. We come to the business end of the season, and we need someone in the absence of a lot of our players now, and we're light in that central midfield area, to be able to come and hit the ground running, to deal with expectation from day one, and even come into a game like Tottenham and say, no excuses, go and play, Gigi, and perform. I would love that. But Tom knows about the transfers more than I do, and it seems as though the talk is around a striker. And I'd put it back on you guys and people in the chat as well, just one word answer. If we can sign in the January transfer window a top striker or a top midfielder, what are you picking?
Can I throw a quick question back to you, Mo, to provide context? How many points, and based upon the players that are available, and let's say Xhaka's back for the game against Spurs, of the game against Spurs and Burnley, how many points are you expecting us to get?
4.
So we're 4 points away from getting both Mohamed El Neni and Partey back, because the next league game after that is Wolves, at which point Partey and El Neni would have both returned. So that, I think, is the context to us saying that we're a Lacazette injury away from disaster right now. Let's be real. So I think that when you contextualize it like that, we absolutely should be prioritizing the striker 100%.
Yeah. And you see, I'm not looking at this just for the AFCON period, Tom. I'm looking at it from the point of view of, in terms of controlling the game, and where I feel like the team has been lacking and underperforming all season. For me, it's in that midfield area. And I feel like a proper partner to Thomas Partey in the middle of the park will see us just be a much better team. Even if that means that we have to kind of say Smith Rowe's on the left, Martinelli's up top, and we have to kind of move around that in the event of an injury to Lacazette. I almost feel like a midfielder is a more important gap in our team right now.
It's crazy we're here, because we've been chatting about this for over a couple of months now. We've been saying this was coming, and we're in this situation now. I understand where Mo's coming with the midfield. It is extremely important. However, if we can go and get someone like Wijnaldum for now, the problem is you don't want to go and get another midfielder for the sake of it, who's not quite good enough to stay more than a season, and then be stuck with, more dross that we got to try and get rid of. I'd rather, if we're going to get someone in short term, someone on loan like Wijnaldum would be perfect, and then you can go for someone like Bruno in the summer or Danilo. But now that looking at it more and more after the Forest game, the striker role, these other guys are coming back in midfield. Aubameyang, I don't think he's coming back. So I think Tom's right. We're going to have to go for someone up top.
I saw some people saying that the issue with the strikers is that we don't create chances. But I mean, prior to the game against Forest, we'd scored 20 goals in 5 games. So I'm not sure that's the case. We do create chances, and our chance creation has actually improved dramatically in the last kind of month or so. And I think that's been a lot down to Martinelli's introduction, in the way in which obviously Ødegaard has really stepped up his game, and Saka's been much better. And also how we're playing out for the back, and the midfield's also been key. Mo, I think you're right. We need a much better partner for Partey than Granit Xhaka. The issue is that I think that the player that to upgrade on Granit Xhaka, we're gonna, and I know people will find this mad because of how much people don't rate Granit Xhaka, but to genuinely upgrade on him, we're gonna have to spend significantly to do that. A player that upgrades on him is a Bruno Guimaraes, and to get him, you're looking at 40 million quid, or a Yuri Tielemans, you're looking at 60 million quid. And by the way, Arteta does like Yuri Tielemans as fact. So he is someone the club could target if they wanted to, with only just over a year, I think, left on his contract.
I'd love him, by the way. I think he's a great player.
He'd be great. And yeah, he'll probably move to a much bigger team. But from the information that when I did a show on this the other day, received was that Liverpool aren't interested in Tielemans. Arsenal and Arteta like him. But if you want to get a deal done, you want to go for it now, because in the summer he's going to have a lot of teams after him. But again, it brings back to the problem of, if we're going to invest heavily this month, it's going to be either striker or midfielder. But the thing is, Mo, I do think there are some midfielders out there that are available, say on loan, that like Wijnaldum that we've talked about, that would give you improvement. I think Artur at Juventus is also a good option, not being underused. He came on last night in the game for Juve when they were 3-1 down and bossed the midfield and was a huge part of them getting back to 4-3. He is a quality player that, thinks that needs a bit of a new challenge at Arsenal. So I think that would be a decent move if we then go and get that big striker.
I just because you touched upon the Juve-Roma game there, can we just enjoy that for a second? Because obviously it's been a tough conversation about Arsenal and their performance against Forest, but Roma at home, 3-1 up against Juventus, 70 minutes on the clock, and Mourinho's Roma suffer, from his words, a psychological collapse and lose the game 4-3. I love it. I absolutely love it. Flipping specialist in psychological collapses. Flipping inject it into my veins.
Well, I'm not going to say anything on that matter at the moment, but what I will ask is, if you guys in the chat, last 10 minutes, if you want to ask these guys questions, ask me questions, let's do it. Let's see, what you might want to ask us based on these conversations we've been having. So let us know. I'm just going to have a look through. There have been a few. If there's anything you guys have seen, let me know as well.
And once people are putting their questions in, I'm just going to say one thing as well, right? Look, I know we're all disappointed with that game against Forest, but when you go back to the 2 away games against United and Everton, and we lost both of those games, we were very disappointed. We were kind of at a real low. There was real anger in the fan base. Arteta has done really, really well since then. Got himself in contention for Manager of the Month. He's done really well. 2 of our players in contention for Player of the Month. We've had a really good December overall. This one awful performance against Forest, I don't think is indicative of a team that has all of a sudden lost all of their abilities. I think it shows what we said earlier, that the drop-off from our starting 11 to when we factor in some of our squad players, and not even the squad players that you typically would have outside of the 11, because there's players gone to AFCON. I think we're a different team there. If we have El Neni in, if we have Maitland-Niles in, so if it wasn't a transfer window, if we had El Neni, Maitland-Niles and Pepe in that team, I actually think, it looks a lot better. And hopefully we don't have that result. So I think a lot of things have come at the wrong time. We don't need to lose our minds. I am really annoyed about the performance, but it's not indicative of a team now that all of a sudden is just rubbish. So let's not get too binary about it. And I still have hope that this team can still achieve something this year.
And on that note, Usama Saeed. Hello, Mo, he says. My question is on the media being so critical about Arteta. Just watched Sky Sports video and they were so rude towards him. What is this agenda, he asks you, Mo?
This agenda is only, when it comes to Arsenal, is only because of people like us three and yourself. Because Arsenal have got such an unbelievably engaged fan base that you see across so many media institutions that desire to just prod, just hang that bait out there for Arsenal fans. And boy, does it work. Let's not forget TalkSport, a rag of a radio station, but ultimately it's the only national sports-focused station that's available for people driving up and down the country. So people are going to listen to it. They had a segment called The Daily Arsenal in their prime time, their drive time slot, when people are coming back from work every single day. They didn't give that honor to any other club. So don't ever expect fairness in the media for Arsenal, because we're not one of those other teams where, Like we dominate Twitter polls, we dominate the internet. We're just crazy. We're just very, very passionate, and they know what they're doing. So I'd say it's not driven by a dislike or a hatred for Arteta. It's driven by a need and a desire for engagement that we just give to them. So if you don't want to feed into that, then just don't bite.
Well said, Mo. I'll put this one to Tom, and if you want to come in on this, Mo, you can as well. What is the panel's realistic signing you want to see in January? Asked King Sates.
Realistic signing. I think if Vlahović is possible to do, which it seems like it's feasible to get done, it's going to be difficult and it's going to cost a lot of money. Then look, you've got the opportunity to sign who is considered to be one of the most exciting young strikers on the continent behind Haaland. So I would absolutely love to see Arsenal to go. I mean, how different is that? We were in a chase for top four, where in previous years we've sat on our laurels and not brought anyone in, and then we go and absolutely blow the budget on an amazing striker. That'd be great, and I think that would give a lot of people more confidence that this team and this club is really trying to push to get reach their targets.
There we go. Well, thank you for that, Tom. Abdul Reviews says, Tom and Mo, keep up the great work. Yeah, cheers, Abdul.
Abdul, we love you already, man.
Oh, I'm not even going to read that now. Forget it, Abdul. No,
come on.
I'm joking. So Tom and Mo, keep up the great work. Is top 5 realistic? I believe that Arteta will have a drop-off at the end of the season due to his awful man management. You guys see it going differently? I'm not answering because Abdul don't like my work. He only wants you to. So you two can answer that.
Go on, man.
Top 5 is definitely realistic. I'd say top 4 is realistic. If we win that game against Tottenham, as I say, we are probably the favourites for that top 4 spot. So top 4 and top 5, both within our grasp, both realistic. And I don't think Arteta's man management abilities will see our end of season form. It won't cause that to unravel. I think the man management might sort of see an unraveling on a longer time scale. I hope I'm wrong, but if it does cause that, I think it will be on a longer time scale. As it stands, I think that he has the majority and certainly enough of the squad to work for him and deliver for him.
Well said, Mo. And you know what? I was just saying just a minute ago how much I love Abdul. Yeah, I love you too, Abdul. Cheers, mate. Anthony, how long do we spend on trying to get him? I'm guessing by him he means Vlahović. Before we look elsewhere, before the window runs out. Yeah, we don't want to make the same mistakes as in the summer transfer window. So what are you been hearing, Tom? Is there anything, are we fully in there? Is there look, it sounds like Fiorentina want to sell him, right? It is a thing. And it seems like they don't want to sell him to an Italian counterpart either, does it?
No, I don't think the problem is that Fiorentina are for the first time in a long time in a race to get back into European football. Losing Vlahović would be a big damage to that. They have just signed Christoph Piatek from Hertha Berlin, which obviously they said it's not a replacement, but let's be real. Like, they signed a striker. It looks like it could be. They're also interested in another striker that his name escapes me as well. So that could also happen. We're absolutely in for him. I saw that Red Luddite in the chat says Locatelli Mark II, in the sense of, are we going to waste a lot of time on a player like we did with Locatelli in the summer? I asked this to Kaya Kainak in our chat earlier on in our show on the Arsenal Way, and he very eloquently explained why it's different. The difference between Vlahović and Locatelli is that with the Locatelli situation, Juventus were in the race for Locatelli and very much in the lead during that race. Arsenal are the leading club in the race for Vlahović. Juventus have not got the capacity to sign and reach the demands of what Vlahović wants. Whereas Arsenal, according to the latest info, are certainly, willing to entertain these demands. It's just about the willingness of the player and the agents. They're the biggest block in this. And that brings up the question, I think, would either of you two want to take a striker that is not sold on Arsenal and that needs to be convinced to join Arsenal?
It depends on which way you look at it, because you want someone that's hungry for success, don't you? That's the one thing you do want. So is he asking because he wants to know that we've got the same desire and hunger? It depends on his reasons. If he wants to play Champions League football, they could be saying to him right now, look, you come, we're right in this position with 10 goals from you or whatever it is in these final couple of months, we could be there. It really does depend. I mean, if his reasons are that he's hungry for success, it's not a bad thing. Mo, What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I I feel as though there's a lot riding on it about Champions League. I think if Vlahović comes, it will be Arsenal selling him that Champions League ambition.
Well, there's
And
a
I feel
bonus
like-
of 10 million, Mo, isn't there? Apparently they're offering. That's the rumours. If he gets us into top 4.
don't know. Tom would have seen the contract. We'll have to ask him on that.
I wrote it, mate.
I just don't want to see a player that's maybe a bit demotivated. If we don't qualify for the Champions League next season, he's kind of thinking, oh, I could have gone here, I could have gone there. Or all of a sudden, Man City are in the market for a striker, or, you know, whatever it might be. Man United might be looking for a striker if Ronaldo buggers off because they're not in the Champions League. And I don't want him then kind of having his head turned a little bit. I see what Tom is saying there. I want a player who wants to play for Arsenal, not just a player who just wants Champions League football, because that doesn't mean that he wants to be at us. He could be at anywhere. So I don't know. The other thing as well that I think is that with how the Pepe transfer has gone, the fact that he can't get in the team right now and is our record transfer, have Arsenal been slightly stung by spending mega bucks on one player when we've seen such a fruitful return from, you know, Tomiyasu and you know, Ødegaard and players like that? I don't know, Tom. Do you think there's any reluctance for Arsenal to go and do that mega money transfer now?
I feel like the Arsenal are in a situation where they have financial weight. They can spend if they want to, but they are very particular about what they're going to spend it on, and they will only spend it if they are absolutely assured on a player, like they were with Tomiyasu and with Ramsdale and with White and all of these players that they signed on this summer. They were assured that those were players that would make a difference this season. And I don't think anyone could level an argument that any of those 6 players have not made an impact for us this season. I think they all have made an impact for us this season. So I trust the decision that they end up making. If they want to go and spend a deal which is, you know, according to Sammy Motbell from the Mail today, saying that it would cost a total of 150 million across all the years of his contract, with the signing on bonuses, with the agent fees. That's how much of an investment it would be. If that's what they want to go and spend, I'll back it. And I'll say, you know, I think if we want to close the gap with the teams like Chelsea and Liverpool and City, which is what, you know, fans have been demanding Arsenal to do, because we're, you know, we have these standards, etc. You've got to be bold, and that's a hell of a bold move to make. So, you know, if they want to do that, I have faith that they're making the right choice.
I think it's commendable that we're actually going for what's deemed as one of the hot properties, like prospects out there at the moment. It's been a while since Arsenal been linked with somebody of that ilk, and I think if we can get him in, it will speak volumes. But I mean, you know, just watch this space. One more question I'll fit in. True Gunner, as you were kind enough to ask me one. Lev, I've got a question for you. He asked, is if we sign a big money signing now in midfield or striker, should we expect more in the summer? Big summer last year, big January, big summer again? I get the feeling that we're not going to get everyone in this window that we need. Obviously, it's obvious, right? We're not. I think it's looking more that we're going to go and get a striker and maybe get someone like a Wijnaldum as a short-term fix. I still expect some to go out in the summer and some to come in the summer. Gents, do you agree?
Right?
Yeah, look, I don't know. I really don't know. I think with Arsenal...
Thanks, Mo.
No. The reason I say that is very hard to second guess, because I feel like since the new management team has come in, I have generally been wrong about what they go on and do. I never ever would have thought for a second that Arsenal would be the top spenders in the Premier League in the summer transfer window. Yeah. And I didn't have faith in them then to get the decisions right. And so far, it seems like they have got the majority of them right. So I was kind of wrong on both counts there. I'm finding it very hard to second guess them. Now I find myself thinking, how is it that us being the transfer top spenders in the summer are now being linked with Vlahović, who's such a big prospect? How can we afford that and afford it without Champions League football? And again, it's going contrary to what I think. So I kind of feel like all I'm constantly doing is getting it wrong when it comes to the work that Edu, Vinay and Arteta are doing. And I previously with Gazidis and Wenger and that team, I feel like they were easier to read. This one, I'm honestly, I really don't know.
Okay, so it's a long-winded way of saying don't know. Let's say basically.
At least I've explained why. Like, I'm really struggling.
Yeah. And he's told us, yeah. Well, he did. Like always, Mo is detailed in the reasons, and that's why he doesn't know. Anything else we want to cover before we go? I mean, guys, we've got the show. The next show we've got is after the Spurs game, which is on Sunday, right? And we've got a show next Monday. So let's just hope. Let's just pray. Ben Davies, I see you in the chat group. Yeah, I know who you are. Let's hope it's going to be a good game against them. But I mean, anything you want to cover before we go, guys?
Yeah, I've got a question for Tom.
Oh.
Tom, a yes or no?
Is it a juicy one?
Well, it's a no room on the fence sort of question.
Oh, I hate those questions.
I thought you wanted to go, Mo. Like you're going to be another hour with these.
Will Arsenal sign Vlahović in January?
Oh, wow!
This is your journalistic reputation on the line, yeah.
No is the safer answer, so I'm going to go with no. They won't sign. To be fair, I go back and forth every day. Yesterday I was like 60% yes. Today I'm like 40% no. It really just changes with the day, to be honest. But I'm going to go no.
No, 60% yes and 40% no are the same things, right?
Sorry, 60% yes and 60% no. Corresponding days, yeah. Sorry.
All right, and then this. If Arsenal don't sign Vlahović in January, will Vlahović have a transfer in January?
No, I think that if he doesn't move to Arsenal in January, he will move somewhere else in the summer.
Will that be Arsenal?
No.
Okay.
Oh, if we don't get Vlahović, can I throw one in then? If we don't get Vlahović, do either of you see us getting somebody else instead? Like Isak
in January?
Yeah.
I'd lean towards no, because Vlahović is the most likely one that Arsenal can get in January because of the situation of the player and the club. Isak is tricky to get out because unless you pay his €80 million release clause or 80 to 90 million euro release clause. Everton are going to ask for a ridiculous fee for Calvert-Lewin in January. And then the other one is Jonathan David, who isn't leaving in January. He only leaves in the summer, as far as I'm aware. So if it's not Vlahović, I don't think we'll go. But what I do think that would mean is that we may then invest more heavily in a midfielder if we realise we're not going to get Vlahović. So yeah.
Oh right, yeah, okay, fair enough.
And just one more, but before we go, then,
it's like a Turkish goodbye when your family's trying to leave. They never go. They stand at the door and they're talking to you for ages. You're standing there waiting for them. Are we leaving or what? Like,
I know what you mean, Lev. I know what you mean. But the thing is, right, that the reason I want to talk about it is because it actually matters this year, this season. It actually matters. There's actually something riding on it. We're not coasting to a irrelevant 8th place finish. We have to move. We have to try and maximize the chances of the fact that we are currently 4th. Man United, Tottenham have faltered. There's a chance here. So my question now is, if we don't get a striker over the line, is there any chance Aubameyang comes back and does something for this team in the second half of the season?
Before you answer that, Tom, there's no room for racism in this chat, yeah? That's all I'm saying, and that's all I'm going to say on that matter. That's just ridiculous. So I'm very disappointed. Go on, Tom.
Second what you just said there, Lev. But on that, I think we have to sign someone to get top 4, Mo. It's as simple as that. I don't see this squad as is being enough to overachieve, and I think we would agree in saying 4th place is an overachievement for this squad. So I think we have to sign someone. Is a short answer to a long question. So sorry, I know Lev is desperate to wrap things up.
But
I'm not desperate to wrap it up. I'm just not used to you guys hanging around. That's all.
But Tom, that's not what I'm asking. And Lev, I want you to answer it as well. If we don't sign a striker, will Aubameyang get a look in, or is it just dead now?
Oh, sorry, I misheard your question. I kind of think
he's trying to blag his way through it, and
that was a very journalist.
It wasn't even relevant, was it? Yeah.
Look, you got to be careful with these media trained guys.
I think Aubameyang's done. I think he's done. Even if he doesn't leave in Jan, I really think that story's come to a close.
And Lev, what about you?
Well, I don't see how we can go the rest of the season without a striker, though, Tom. Like if we don't get Vlahović, what are we going to do? We're going to rely on just Lacazette for the rest of the season. We don't have the depth. So what is he going to shoot himself in the foot to make a statement with Aubameyang?
If Lacazette escapes injury, he can play 1 game a week. We're not in Europe. We're not in the FA Cup. He can do that. All we just have to hope that he doesn't get injured.
Yeah, but then he's not getting us. Although his all-round play is great, we still need someone clinical, Mo, don't we? That's going to get us goals with gilt-edged chances, like, half chance, bang goal. Who do we have that can do that for us right now?
No, but
Martinelli's a bit young for that.
Lacazette's not that guy. He's the facilitator. He makes Saka play better. He makes Martinelli play better.
Does.
He makes Odegaard, Smith Rowe all play better. So instead of getting 25 goals from one man, you get double digits from 3 or 4.
Well, let us know in the chat and in the comments. Please smash the likes if you haven't already. It's nice to know you care. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so. Where the hell have you been? And also, we'll on here in the comments. 2 players were Arsenal in the market for, apparently. Striker, midfielder. Who are the 2 for you? Would you go and try and get both that are the long-term solutions? Or do you think go now, get Vlahović, put all your energies into that and get someone as a stopgap like Ronaldo? Let us know in your comments. So, guys, that is it for now. I think Osama Said saying, can you please answer my question? I haven't seen a question from you. Has anyone seen a question from Osama Said? Anyone?
How'd you spell his name?
Usama, Usama.
Not coming up for me.
No question, Usama. That's why we haven't answered it, because you don't have one.
And
okay.
I'll just fill in. I'll give him an opportunity to write it again. I have to say, we started off on politics. Yeah, I'm going to end on politics.
Oh no!
You know what I'm going to say, don't you?
Yeah.
Go on, take it away.
Well, you're going to talk about. Hold on. Well, there's 2 possibilities. Either you're going to talk about Jurgen Klopp, or you're going to talk about a certain someone having, a nice drinky drink during the first lockdown. Is the other one I thought you were going to talk about?
No.
Oh wow, I got them both wrong.
No.
Go on. There's so many politics going on at the moment.
It's the sheer sadness that Preeti Patel is an Arsenal fan. What the hell do we do?
I didn't know that. Why have you told me that?
I don't like that woman at all. That's all I'm going to say on the matter, and it's like it's nothing personal. Well, it is in a way, but I just don't. She's just cold. She's just so cold.
I found Osama's question, by the way, if you want it.
Go on, then. Morgan, Bin Laden, Preeti Patel. What have we done to deserve this?
Bin Laden was a CIA informative. Let's check it up. So was all his entire family. Anyway. What was the question, Tom?
Osama's question was, why did Liverpool send false positive COVID cases? It postponed our game, and that was pathetic. News came only after Trent Alexander-Arnold was positive among all of those players.
I'm going to answer in true Mo fashion. I don't know.
The best lies and sort of the best deception are the so blatantly obvious or so like crazy that they can't possibly be made up.
Crazy.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? When something seems so obviously BS, you think, no, they won't have the bottle to actually try that. And this Liverpool affair, it seems like so flipping BS. Oh, loads of COVID cases the next day. Oh, training grounds open. Oh, turns out there were false positives. It seems so ridiculous that I'm almost thinking maybe they're being honest, because you do a better job of the lie if you're not being honest here.
Mate, there you go. Well, I don't even know where to go with this. It's just getting all political.
Apparently, the EFL are investigating it, though, Lev. The Athletic just reported saying the EFL have come under pressure to investigate Liverpool postponement.
Hold on. There's rumours that we've got cases rising? I think I've read a rumour that Smith Rowe's might have it as well. The question, that's a question. If it happens to us, do we do the same thing before we play Liverpool and then cancel their game and then wait for that to be rescheduled?
By the time we get it rescheduled, they might have Mane and Salah back. So why don't we just play them while they don't have those 2?
I think we're all right at the moment. So that's, guys, it's been a pleasure. It's flown by an hour and 13 minutes. We could talk about this stuff. There's an even political stuff in more depth. I'd love to, but we can't anymore. We've got to go. So listen, let's hope we're talking about a positive result on Monday. Keep an eye out for transfer shows coming up. And I know by popular demand, Shaheen will be back. He will be back. You can stop sending a fan mail. Stop stressing me out. I don't know where you're getting my phone number from, but he's coming back. He'll be back on the next show. Okay. Then you can all ask him where he's been. Please ask him where he's been. All of you ask him where he's been. He doesn't want you to ask him where he's been. So ask him where he's been, because I want to know where he's been. So on that note, Mo, want to sign off with anything? Last final words? Obviously follow Mo on his channel at Moh Haider TV. Anything else, Mo?
Last words would be, yep, it was an absolute shower against Nottingham Forest, but keep the faith. The team have earned that, I think, at this stage of the season. They're over-delivering on expectation. Hopefully we can continue that.
Yep, that's it. And obviously, make sure you follow Tom at the Gooner Talk TV. He's got loads of tags. Can't find them. Just keep looking for him. Wait until you see one with his face on it, and it's verified. Then you know it's him. Tom, anything else you want to add? Anything you want to sort of let the guys know about that's coming up?
Got an interesting piece coming out tomorrow morning on Bruno Guimaraes. If you want to check that one out, it's a breakdown of his brilliant performance against PSG last night. So check that one out.
Check that one out. A brilliant piece on the guy we're not getting. That'd be great. So, on that note, this has been the Arsenal Lounge. It's been emotional. As I say, it's a roller coaster. Join us on the next edition. We'll see whether we're up or we're down. This has been the Arsenal Lounge. I'm on Avenger. Peace out.